Sherry's another founding member. Jennifer. Kyrie, another founding member. Evie. It's so funny. I've seen all your names for so long. I feel like I know everybody. Liz, hey, good to see you. And Mary. Great. All right, we're going to give it a couple more minutes just to allow people to hop on, and then we'll get started. But folks can continue to chat or do whatever as we're waiting.
Mary, it's Evie, like Chevy.
Evie, okay. Now, I'll tell you, names. Judith, well, is it Judith or?
Yes.
Okay, Judith. Taylor, good to see you.
Hi. Nice to see you.
Judith, where are you geographically in the world?
I'm in San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know Liz is in Seattle. Oh, Joan, good to see you. Well. Hey, Rachel, welcome.
Hi, Mary.
Yes, okay. All right, going to give it another minute and then we are going to get started. I like to run a tight ship here. Okay.
Mary, can I just say the person that just signed in, she's got no name on her screen. You may have to sign out and sign back in because you did not add audio. So we will not be able to hear you.
Trying to see who that would be.
Sorry, I don't.
No, it's okay. It's good to know. All right, well, hopefully you got the message. All right. Oh, I see it. Yeah, I see it here. All right.
Okay,
well,
Casey, try turning your mic on and see if you can speak, please. You can hear us, but can we hear you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Okay,
Yes.
now I can.
Oh, hi, Casey. How are you? All right, let's get started. I'm sure Wally, did you have a question before we start? Or are you just saying hi to somebody?
Just waving. Casey, wave back.
The one thing I've learned in moderating and leading things is raising your hand and waving are remarkably similar. So I try not to make assumptions. All right. Hi, everyone. So lovely to see you. Oh, actually, can we now take a screenshot? Because we've neglected to do so and we would really love to capture it. So Xian, can you do that? Okay, why don't we just, at the count of 3, let's just say cheese or do something. Okay, you ready, Xian? Can't tell. Okay. Did you do it or we've done it? I can't tell. Okay, we're done it. Great. Thank you.
Right.
See, that was painless. Okay. Anyway, as many of you may know, my name is Mary Fridley. Oh, it's up on the screen. I am very privileged to be the coordinator of Reimagining Dementia, a creative coalition for justice. Hopefully that's the meeting all of you were planning to attend. This is our 3rd and for the moment final, but by no means the last one. But of this first initial series, this is our 3rd and final one. And we've had, I think, just a really, really, really fun and lovely time meeting each other and kind of doing what it was we hoped we were going to do in these initial gatherings, which was to get to know each other and have some fun and play together. And, to begin exploring and learning from each other what reimagining dementia means to each of us, means to all of us, and use that, as we go forward to kind of guide where it is we might end up going. And that I'm sure it will not be a straight line, But wherever we go, we're real thrilled that all of you are here with us. We have about 350 members. It is an international coalition. Last night, we were very honored to have someone join us from Nigeria, who was up in the middle of the night. So we were especially honored. And please, if this seems like something you, after today, you wanna continue to be a part of, please invite others to join you. This is how we're gonna get the word out. You're going to be hearing a little bit about the coalition from Pia Cantos in a moment. And then, as I said, we're gonna get to know each other and do, play together for a while and kind of, and to kick that off, I wanted to just share a couple of quotes. I'm in a quote sharing mood this week for some reason. That it inspires me, and I think it's relevant to the spirit in which we're trying to bring this to life. The first is very short. It's a quote from Brian Sutton Smith, who, as some of you may know, he was an anthropologist, but he was also a very renowned play theorist and just a passionate advocate for the power of play. And he says, the opposite of play is not work, it is depression. And I mean, we were talking earlier about why, for example, in the work world, work meetings are invariably so boring. And I just think if we just injected this much play into our day-to-day lives, life would be very different. And then the second is from a writer and nurse who I've come to really, really like, Sally Tisdale. And this was from an article she wrote for the Harper's about her work as a nurse working with people living with dementia. And she says, time changes when the brain fails, becoming strange and plastic. Dementia gives us an opportunity to question how time and language and perception work, to use words, repetition, pauses and silences, gestures and images in new ways, expressions of the expansive interior longing to be heard. And I mean, I love everything about it. I love the imagery, but I was thinking more when I was reading it today about that she talks about depression giving us an opportunity. And I've always thought it is an opportunity. And I think for us, she means not just people who have an immediate relationship with dementia, but everyone, I think the world. We all have a relationship to it. And we could all take this opportunity. To learn, to do some new kinds of things. And so I really look forward to creating something together as we go forward over the months, years, whatever, that gives us a shot at creatively stepping into the opportunity and really creating something special. And a person who has been a big part of making this special so far has been Pia Cantos, who, as I'm learning, apparently needs no introduction. But I will give her one anyway. She's enormously respected. She is a research scientist at KITE, K-I-T-E, Toronto Rehabilitation Institute, and associate professor in public health sciences at the University of Toronto. She has been doing research with persons living with dementia and their care partners for 20 years. She is an enormous advocate for using arts-based approaches to promote culture change in dementia care. And all joking aside, as I have come to appreciate both in working with her over the last many months, and certainly during these meetings, that to know her is to really love and respect the passion and commitment to this work. And I definitely count myself in that camp. So with that, Pia, over to you.
Thank you, Mary. What a lovely introduction. Thank you. And good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to now provide an overview. I mean, we thought this would be important to provide even just a brief overview of how and why. It's the how and why regarding the decision to start a coalition. And so I'll provide a bit of history of our beginning that will include some explanation of how we understand coalition, justice, and creativity, which are all in the title of the coalition, the name of it. And then it'll be my pleasure to introduce two members of the coalition who have helped us to plan these first few gatherings that we've had this week. and they'll share a few words about why they decided to join the coalition. So, as founding members of the coalition, we've all been committed in our respective work to addressing injustices that people living with dementia face and creating a more inclusive society. And when we saw that over 80% of COVID-related deaths were associated with nursing homes, with the majority of them being persons living with dementia, we were angry. And that anger quickly turned to outrage with the media coverage of the pandemic, given how little mention there's been regarding the role of stigma and other social factors in shaping care practices and public health response strategies to COVID-19. But they're having a profound impact on persons living with dementia and their care partners and loved ones. And this highlighted for us the need to take immediate action. People living with dementia should have equal access to health, well-being, privileges, and opportunities regardless of their race or ethnicity, their sexual preference, political views or faith, economic status, or any other circumstance. So this is the justice piece to the name of our coalition. And to achieve this justice requires education, advocacy, and innovation at every level of society. And there's no one individual or organization that can achieve this alone. And so we felt that a coalition, a coming together to achieve particular goals, is what's needed to forge alliances across the globe with people living with dementia, both old and young, family and community members, healthcare practitioners, advocates, artists, academics, policymakers, and others to work collaboratively to challenge the stigma associated with dementia and to mobilize the practices and political processes that are needed to finally achieve a humanizing vision of care and support, and one that promotes inclusion, relationality, creativity, and the possibility of growth for everyone living with and who are impacted by dementia. Now, something that is unique about this coalition is our belief in creativity, which includes the arts, theater, music, movement, improvisation, performance, and so much more, as critical to bringing us together and innovating new ways to address the social injustices that people living with and who are impacted by dementia face. Indeed, the creative arts are increasingly advocated for promoting social and personal transformation. So social justice-oriented theater, documentary film, and participatory arts are just some examples that are proving to be very effective to challenge stigma and to shift the culture of dementia care from management and control to relationships, creativity, and supporting human flourishing. Now, there are, of course, many local, national, and international examples of individuals and organizations making important strides to achieve culture change. And I think that our membership powerfully encompasses much of this work. So our aim with this coalition is to leverage these and other collective initiatives, resources, expertise, and passion to organize and mobilize strategies, processes, and practices. And given just how hard culture change work is, such a collective effort seems to be the most productive way forward. So we initiated a call to action. You all responded. And it's our hope that everyone who's committed to culture change will also respond and join this space that we've opened in order to collectively create goals and strategies for radical change. So we look forward to many, many more gatherings to do precisely this, to create goals and strategies for radical change. So it's my pleasure now to introduce Phyllis Fair, who's a member of the coalition and who has helped us to plan these first few gatherings that we've had this week. Phyllis is a registered nurse who stopped practicing since the onset of her dementia symptoms 12 years ago. She's an advocate for people living with dementia. She's actively involved in many research projects. She's an international speaker on human rights for people living with dementia at many conferences. And she's also spoken at the United Nations on disability rights of people living with dementia and at the Canadian Senate on the hearings for dementia. So Phyllis, I'll hand it over to you if you'd like to share a few words about why you joined the coalition.
Hey, thanks, Pia. The reason I chose to join the coalition are multifaceted and far too many to name in this short time. So my top two are the coalition stands for everything I believe in and stand up for. It does this with creativity, all the while emphasizing joy and dignity for those living with dementia. The second reason I joined is to enjoy the fun and creative way they are doing things. This is a far cry from what I usually do. So I look forward to the fun, the excitement, and getting to know each and every one of you as we make change for those living with dementia in order to make their life better and more accommodating. Thank you.
Thanks, Phyllis.
Thanks.
And it's now also my pleasure to introduce Wally Cox. So he's our newest member of the planning group. Wally lives in Northern California, Lake County, what he describes as the best unknown area in California. He's retired from 42 years with the AAA Auto Club. He's been married even longer than that, 48 years, and they've been in the same house for 42 years. So someone asked him a while back how he's been with the same job, in the same marriage, and the same house for almost a half century. And he replied, lack of ambition. I, however, see it a bit differently. I think to stay in the same job for that long is a function of good working conditions. Living in the same house for that long, I think is a function of a good view. But staying in a marriage for almost 50 years, I think takes more than a good view or working conditions, and that is true love. So Wally is also a dementia activist. He's a talented, very talented animator, and he has a wonderful sense of humor. He spends his time doing art, traveling with their RV, riding around in their UTV, and exploring the wilderness of the West. So Wally, I now welcome you to share a few words about why you joined the coalition.
Good morning from California, everybody. It's nice to see all your shining, happy faces. I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. My grandmother she was senile, and she died when she was in her 90s. And we reflect back now and realize that she had Alzheimer's dementia. My dad, in his early 60s, started getting very confused at work, had a lot of issues. And over the course of the next 25 years, ended up dying from dementia and Alzheimer's. His sister died from Alzheimer's and dementia just recently. My dad perished a couple of years ago. While my dad was living in the grand unit next to us, because he could no longer live with my mother because of his violence that he gained with his Alzheimer's and manifested itself, I was a caregiver for him. I remember the frustration and anger sometimes that I would have with his behaviors because I couldn't understand how he could be the way he was. So it was a bit dismaying when I went to the doctor in my early 60s and was told, you most likely have Alzheimer's. And then since then, my brother, who's 48 years old, has been diagnosed with Lewy body, and he can hardly even walk now and has constant nightmares. And so we have a family history of this kind of issue with dementias. And so so when I was diagnosed, I was very ashamed of what I had, and I kind of pulled a blanket over my head and withdrew from everybody. And my wife reminded me that I used to be her caregiver when she was really ill, and I talked about building walls and tearing them down and being connected and all this stuff. And I was doing the very same thing I criticized her for when she was really ill. So I decided to crawl out from underneath the rock and get involved with people, and learned real quickly that there's nothing to be ashamed of. And in fact, that's part of the problem that we're faced with dementia is the shame and stigma that goes with it. So my hope is to be an advocate for those who are afflicted and let them know that there's still life after your diagnosis. And that's why I'm here, to help in any way that I can. So there you go.
Thank you. Thanks, Wally. Very well said. So over to you, Mary.
Thank you. Just a quick, I want to acknowledge 3 other founding members who are here. Joan Devine, if you could just raise your hand. Sherry Dupuy and Mary Radnofsky. I know we're on 2 pages, but I at least wanted to get their names out there. Thank you all. Actually, I don't know how many of you all know improvisation, but there is a game that we play in improvisation called I Made a Mistake, and it's designed to celebrate mistakes. And I just made one. So I went out of order. So now, oh my gosh, it is the tyranny of the agenda, which I realized at some point I was going to break from. Okay, so we're now going to come together again and play. And I'm going to turn it over. We're going to do something fun as a group. And I'm going to turn it over to Kate Fassbender, who is a founding member. She is a gerontologist, a dementia and creative engagement specialist. She's the founder of the Dementia Letter Project. And I've gotten to know Kate and worked with her in various capacities over the last year or so, and she's just tremendous and at what she does. So I urge you to get to know her. Kate, it's over to you.
All right. So at this point, if you are capable and feel comfortable of turning on your camera, that'd be great. But if not, feel free to keep it off as well. So the first thing I want to do is, because we are living, separated from a lot of people that we used to connect with. When we are out, we're wearing masks. How often do we see a smile of another human being? So I just want to take a moment now for all of us to just smile and make eye contact with different people across the screen, because I think we have forgotten the joy that is found and the comfort and the connection through seeing another smile. So we'll just take a few seconds and just smile and make eye contact, maybe wave if you feel called to. Yeah. Okay. So I know I personally miss that and look forward to the day when we're out and about and we can see each other's smiles. All right. So if you can now think of the current location that you call home, the physical place that you call home, be it living with a loved one, living by yourself, in an apartment, in a house, in a condo, anywhere in the world. When you think of what brings you comfort while you are in that home, what might that look like physically in your body? So example is, for me, it's knowing that I can go down to the kitchen and usually I'll see my dog there, and I might see, because I'm currently with other family members as a care partner, I'll be able to see other family. So when I think of that, I think of just the warmth and the loudness that all of us, the volume that all of us create. So for me, it'd probably be, a movement like this, because it's uplifting, being able to connect with other human beings. So for you, what would that be? What would that look like physically? It can be either something still or something in movement. Yeah.
And just to add, really look at each other. See what the people are doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I see a lot of kind of embrace and kind of opening up to embrace others. Yeah. Good. Now, if you can think of something that is currently missing in your home that you wish was there, a person, a thing that maybe you had long ago that you miss. and look at what that might, what might that look like or even sound like. So for me, I think back and I miss the time when it was just the four of us, my mom, my dad, my brother, and I, as we've moved off and, we have holidays together, but it's no longer just the four of us living together anymore. So for me, that feels kind of like it would be sinking and melting and wishing I could just immerse myself back into that memory. So what would that be for you, do you think?
Do it physically?
You do it physically, yes. Yeah. Wow. A lot of different things, holding tight, conversation, looks like music making happening. Yeah. So now as we move into what will be the next part of this call, as we further get to know each other, maybe think of these things, and maybe you never know what you might be missing or what you enjoy about your home might be what also connects you to another human being. So it's kind of opening us up to discovering more about each other. Maybe ask somebody if you saw something that they were doing, ask them about it as we move forward with these calls, and get to know each other. And especially as this is the year of home. So how can we take the year of home and use it as part of our creative toolbox to transform what we all seek to transform? So.
Thank you. That was lovely. I just wanted to acknowledge 3 other founding members who are here. One is Susan Masad, who is my partner in crime and wonderful physician. We are Kyrie Carpenter, and who is an advocate and just I've learned so much from her. And finally, Dawn Hagen, who I realized had introduced herself earlier, but hadn't been acknowledged with everyone. So let's give them all a shout out. All right. So we now, as Kate indicated, we're going to break up. We've kind of slightly modified the instructions for the breakouts. So we're going to divide you into groups of 5. I'm guessing everyone has probably been in breakout rooms now that we're so experienced in Zoom, but if you haven't, it will take a moment. You'll be asked to join a breakout room. It takes a second, and then magically you will appear in a breakout room. And this is really designed to, you have 15 minutes, and really, your job is to have some fun with each other, but also to get to know each other and discover something and some things you have in common. And it could be from the utterly mundane to the utterly lofty. We're not, and I mean, aside from the obvious that we're all here together, that we will acknowledge up front, but otherwise it's really just to, and if I think they've emerged rather organically, but it could be something that's interesting about you to share, what's something you love, what's something in your immediate environment, to Kate's point, your home, that you wouldn't want to live without. But whatever it is, it's kind of to explore together. And again, just to begin the process of getting to know each other as who we are in our worlds. So are there any questions before we do the magical breaking up? Nope. All right, Sion, take us away.
Were you the first back?
I guess so.
Well,
We're-
we're trying to
We're the
change-
most responsive to the direction.
we follow the rules.
Yes.
Yeah, right. That's not what I do.
I would love to see if we could incorporate the, what Wally, what you just said, the joy of dementia, incorporating that into some kind of a, creative platform of expression and, whether through the arts, through music, through something, because that just,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
yeah.
It's just
That's
addressing,
That's actually the name of Mary and Susan's initiative, The Joy
Okay.
of Dementia.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's beautiful.
and when I first heard from Mary, we had just discussed those very same words the week before at my Alzheimer's group about the joy, because we had a new person in the depths of despair, and obviously, it strikes some people faster than others, but there's still time. I drew a picture of a park merry-go-round, and the illustration was, the ones you spin around real fast and you hang on to for dear life while your brother tries to spin it even faster and knock you off, so you'll start crying. And I said, when I was diagnosed, it was like I was on that merry-go-round, and in the center of the merry-go-round was the word dementia, along with the words like despair and death and destruction and all disappointment and all these things. And I was hanging on to this thing, spinning around like a crazed man, staring at the center of this thing. That's all I saw. But behind me, and I drew a picture of it, I'd show you, but I think I got it here. Behind me, okay, is all the things that I would have seen if I had chose to turn around and look outward instead of looking inward. My family, my faith, my friends, nature, music, smells, food, textures, all these things, these senses and all the beauty of the world that's provided for us. But I was gripped in fear and despair, staring at the center of this merry-go-round. And I talked a little bit at this one talk I gave about turning around and looking outward, not looking inward. And that's what people need to learn when they get diagnosed, and their care partners, that there's still time, hopefully, for some fun. At the end, it's not going to be fun, but it's not going to be fun if you're dying from cancer either. So, it's all
Yes.
not fun, right?
Actually, just to add to what Wally was saying, I love that talk, and I really used it a lot. And I realized we should just be doing that in life.
Mhm.
And it's a shame that often it doesn't get manifest until we have to face something that's difficult. But I think looking outward is a very positive way to go through life. So I realize, again, I am so falling down on my duties today. I neglected to say we were going to kind of do a reporting out. I'm hoping that since there were people in each group that had gone through these meetings, they picked up the slack. But we would love to hear what you discovered. If you came up with a single commonality or kind of what just share some, and you can write it in the chat room as well and talk, but we'd love to hear back and just a little bit about what y'all talked about, what you discovered. The floor is open.
I'm happy to get us started here, Mary.
Sure.
So we had Evie, Leslie, Molly, Dawn, Rachel, and myself in our group, and we started talking about relationships. And I believe it was Leslie mentioned that her husband is her rock, who's right there all the time providing support. And that really opened a beautiful discussion about relationships. I mean, even in this pandemic, Zoom is giving us an opportunity to connect, and sometimes in very creative ways, with concerts and art exhibits. And then we talked about how the arts are incredibly powerful for supporting relationships, and that those who are in positions, so for those who are living with dementia, the power of, for example, music to connect, that was discussed. but also those who are in the context of caring initiatives, what it means to them to provide these opportunities to connect through the arts. It's just giving them a feeling of being valued, and it's opening the door to new ways of being, and really just it's a beautiful thing. And then I think we sort of landed on the.
Sorry, it's just been sorry, Tia. Can everybody go on mute? We've got some bad background noise. If you're, sorry, continue. I just wanted to be able to folks to hear you.
And then Wally talked about how his diagnosis of dementia was actually a gift, because it pulled him away from working much too hard, and creating opportunities to experience laughter and art and music and nature and exploring in ways that he never was able to when he was working. So that's where we ended, and really on a beautiful note. I think he said it's the joy of dementia.
Right. Casey, do you want to, I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you want to share a little bit about our group?
Yeah, so our group, we realized some things we have in common is that we all have some kind of fears that we're dealing with, anything from, COVID fears to mixing up the toothpaste with the tube of hair remover, brushing teeth with it. We also realize we're all creative in different ways, and certainly an element through all of those was improv, whether it was in improv and improvisational theater or in jazz music, poetry, writing, advocacy. So thinking about improv as a way of being creative in a lot of different areas of life. And we realized we also had all at some point in our lives performed on stage. We didn't get into depth about what that was, but we had all performed in some way.
I mean, we've all been a tree in our third grade play. I just know it. By the way, we want to hear from all the groups. At any point, if you would like to share, even if, quote, your group was already, don't worry about it. We're not running that tight. And, if you want to respond or share something new, please feel free. So let's continue.
It's Ron here. I don't mind chatting for our group. None of us took notes, so I'm just by memory. But in our group was myself in Toronto. We have Mindy, Liz in Seattle. We have Kate, Mary, and Jennifer Hicks. And I just realized on Zoom that I could move all of you around. This is the first time I didn't realize. I just realized that. So because I was trying to figure out where are they all here. So that's our group. You're in order in my screen. And we started off trying to find that commonality. Started with dogs. Okay, little dogs. I think we all have a connection to little dogs. Either we have. Mary has her dog sitting beside her, I believe, at this moment. You always want a pet just to show up, right? I always learned when you're doing a talk or presentation, talk about a cat or a dog, and everyone will love that. But then we eventually started talking about just our backgrounds. But near the end, we got into language and words and linguistics, and I think that's going to be an interesting conversation for all of us moving forward. The meanings we attach to words. And how do we as a group move forward, but we all as well have our own meanings. So stigma is going to be discussed. I know that was discussed earlier. But the one commonality, I'm sure the group's okay if I share that. Yes, or okay. Yeah, that it just happened to be all six of us. I don't know, we use some words like free. We're trying to remove the words of less, what is this word? But all of us don't have a kid, none of us gave birth in some form to a child, which we found interesting, all six of us. So you define what word you want to attach to that. We're trying to come up with a word for that. So if anyone can help us, let us know. That's our group.
You guess it would be a little loaded to use the word free.
And it was really cool too, because Mary added, she's like, there's no word in the English language. And she said in French too, there's no word that is a human being who does not have a child. Like she's like someone who has a child, you're a parent, a mother, or father. But if you did not have a child, there's no actual word. So that's how it went into the linguistic piece of it. So it was really cool. It was really good.
Well, childless is a terrible description.
Right.
It's, Corey or Bernie, I mean, two people I see. Do you want to say what our group? Say something about our group? You're both muted.
What about Susan? Susan, did you want to summarize, because you were hearing as the observer?
I'm an inveterate note taker.
I think what I brought to this was also relationships, and how as a caregiver it can be difficult, but yet there are ways of being joyful in creativity with art and music, dance, doing things together that bring you together, that open up about each other's lives together, and that is quite powerful, really. So I was talking about the reminiscing program, and that's what I brought to the, and it's quite a lot to talk about, so I better just finish here. Thank you.
It's good. Well, I was interested, the Pia first came in first, and so we talked about relationships, and that was definitely for our group of Xion and Corey. We had Katharina and Mark from North Carolina, who has lost his power. Everybody, 300,000 people are without power in his part of North Carolina. And I probably don't remember the other couple of people, but it was, I think a theme was the relationality, the joy of our relationships and creating those relationships. And Mark works with the care partners or caregivers in his work, and just thinking about how important it is to talk about kind of explore the ways we develop our relationships. I do think the arts are a very, very important part of that. But and part of it is getting over our kind of bias against sort of cognitive linear speech as the only way to create relationships. Yeah. Corey, do you have something to add?
Sorry about that. No, I don't think I did. You guys did a great job. I had to log out momentarily to start another Zoom class. So
sorry.
No, I'm glad to be back. And I would say in talking about relationships, I heard you both mention that, and I think that was important.
Okay, another group. And again, I don't know who the groups are, so somebody will have to step in and say our group is.
I can do it. Yeah, our group was Elizabeth, and I'm looking for everyone else who's on here, and Shelley, and I think we've lost a couple of our
Carolyn.
There, thank you, Carolyn, and then Margaret. And yeah, we sort of all, I feel like the commonality that we share, we sort of just did loose introductions, and the commonality was we all come at this from a professional lens as well. Elizabeth is looking to get involved professionally. And I feel like the commonality was, just like a commitment to culture change, whether that's studying it, being, boots on the ground, advocacy, but ways of both exploring new ways of, of changing the culture around dementia, and then also sharing those explorations in professional capacity. What did I miss? Anyone else from our group want to chime in, things you noticed that were similar? We were also a really quiet group where everyone paused a lot and didn't step on each other's toes.
Maybe our learning from people with dementia, as watching their life experience and comparing it to other people's life experience that we know. In my case, I forgot to say I admired my family member who has dementia for her philosophy of aging. So I've been with her all along, and that's very much informed how I think I'm going to be old. I'm 67, so in another generation I'll be where she is in her age, and I'm learning from her how to get really old.
Wonderful. Okay, is there any group that has not heard from?
I can speak about our group, Mary.
Sure,
I
sure.
had the great fortune of being in a very creative group with Taylor, Joan, Judith, Ryan, and Robert. And all of them had amazing talents in terms of creativity. So from music, songwriting, music therapy, to photography, art design, collage, knitting, poetry. What am I forgetting, everyone? Very creative group. And some of us also love clowns and have clown collections. So did I forget anything, group?
I think that was it, except I did not share the love of clowns right now.
Yes, thank you.
I'll get you there, Taylor. I'll get you there.
Good. I once led a workshop and I made the mistake of introducing something that had a clown in it, and I swear half the workshop had to leave for that segment. It was just amazing. Like it didn't even occur to me. All right, that was lovely. That was really lovely, and I'm thrilled that I mean all of it was, but I'm so happy that language and the use of language and the way that language can both free us and imprison us was introduced, because I suspect we will be exploring that more. All right, so we're now going to go back into the same rooms. So it's now that we're on a roll. This time we're going to shift to what we want to talk about together and share. And again, we'll be reporting out some is what reimagining dementia means to us. That could be multi-leveled. It could be just the concept, because obviously I suspect there's many different views on it, and we all have different understandings and practices. And it could also be the coalition, if you would like. I mean, it's, and, just share that. And then perhaps when we come back, if there is, again, a way to kind of summarize. And again, last night, it was a lot of fun. You could report out using straight ahead language in the ways that we did. However, you can also create a poem. You can we did some modern dance last night, which was just truly amazing. You can draw it, you can create a poem. In other words, we can be creative as groups in how we want to present, how we want to come back. So it's really up to you to determine that. So I think that's, and then kind of to summarize kind of in a way what reimagining dementia ended up being for your group. And so again, any questions? All right, let's break out again.
Is it just the two of us?
I realize I left my group by accident, and I don't know how to go back.
I think me too, but we're coming to an end, I think.
Yeah,
because
so there was only a few more minutes, but I mean a few more seconds.
But they're not here. Anyway,
They're not here.
Oh dear me. Anyway, how are you? Are you enjoying the talk?
Yes, very much so. Sherry, I realize I left the meeting by accident.
You did?
Yeah, but now anyways, hi.
Oh.
Me too. Me too. I'm sorry. I think I disappeared by accident. Sorry.
Okay, are we all back?
I think so.
Okay, good. All right. Let's do some sharing. And again, I'll leave it up to you to step up. And everyone should be on mute if you're not speaking, just because again, we're dealing with background sounds and things. All right, who wants to share?
I can share for our group. So what I thought was really interesting is right before we went into the group, Mary, you said language can free us and imprison us. And this has sort of been a theme that I've been thinking about over the past few weeks. And we talked about what reimagining dementia looks like for each of us. And for me, it looked like sort of recognizing how I have, in my profession as a music therapist, how that might have perpetuated these ideas that didn't sort of help people. And maybe I was acting in ways to align myself in a medical model when really I should have been aligning myself more with the people I was working with. So that's something I was thinking about. So we were talking about language. And then this is what my sheet looks like. So I'm going to try to decipher what everyone said. I also had an idea of putting it in a song, but we didn't have time. So that'll be for a next time thing. So everything is connected and relational, and we must reimagine. And so there was this idea of blowing up the system in brackets peacefully. And I wanted to bring in, I think it was Ryan who had a quote about this, about how this might look like, with what blowing up the system might look like peacefully. Ryan, did you want to share the quote you shared with the group? Sorry for calling you out.
No, it's okay. Yeah, it's just a phrase that I heard last night, actually, in a diversity, equity, and inclusion training for queer meditation groups. So that's where it's coming out of. And the phrase is a multicultural, intersectional, and multi-generational societal core. So it's really sort of questioning maybe a white supremacist core that might exist right now.
Mm-hmm. So we talked about questioning what power looks like and how this power is affecting people living with dementia. And then we were also talking about stigma and asking questions of why is this stigma so deep, and what are we afraid of? And how might these stigmas contribute to our fear? So we were talking a lot about language and how we can look at things differently. Oh, and Joan said something really important. When I was talking about language and how I'm using language to sort of reimagine what this might look like, she said, language must be followed by practice. So it's not enough for me to just sort of think about the language, but I must also translate that into practice. So thank you for sharing that, Joan. And that's what we talked about.
Wonderful.
Happy to start sharing for our group. We decided to visually represent our ideas in the form of different important words and phrases that stood out in a puzzle, a drawing of a puzzle, which I'll show you in a second, because all the pieces connect and interlock with each other. But of course, since I'm holding it just up to the camera, everything's going to be backwards.
Okay, cool.
Physical representation. Well, we'll read out some of what we have here, and then my group members can jump in as well.
Corey, before you read out, can you also at some point, not during this, but take a picture and send it to me at the Reimagining Dementia, because that would be a great thing to share.
Absolutely. I already took a picture with my phone, so I'll make sure I send it to you, Mary.
Great.
But I'm wondering, sorry to interrupt, if you took the picture and sent it now, would they be able to download it at their end? Whoever's operating the system, I don't quite know who.
We could try, we don't have a lot more time. And I think, and we will be sending out everything that so you will be getting it at a minimum. So anyway, I don't want to take up more time with that, but
Great, thank you. So we started with talking about stigma, which we're hearing from the first group too. I'm sure that'll be a common thread, and that we want to erase that people are people. And why do we have to put labels and shame attached to things? We want to elevate the voices of those suffering from dementia. We want them to be driving the work, and we want to be doing things with them, not for them. We talked about how do we connect, and how do we do that without language? If there is no language, how do we adapt for different stages and different abilities? And that led to a connection to the arts, of course, wanting to elevate different forms and approaches, which would include the fine arts, music, improvisation, the importance of play. But that led to another conversation about how significant touch is, especially at points when some of the arts we're talking about may or may not be possible anymore. So if we're thinking about the loss of language and the loss of sight, how that's on us to try to adapt for that to still make meaningful experience. We talked about the arts as part of a diagnostic treatment plan. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And I had added one of my phrases was experience this moment, and also adding experiencing joy specifically in the moment. That was based on experience that I had early on in this work when I realized after a lengthy art program and an art show, which was all wonderful and meaningful, most of our participants a month out didn't remember it anymore. And that was difficult for me and my colleagues to accept at first, in our museum work and as educators. But that was important to realize that experiencing that joy in the moment had really counted, and that the loss of memory of it afterwards didn't take away from the importance.
Thank you.
If anyone wants to jump in from my group.
Actually, I'm going to ask, sorry, it's just in the interest of time because we are now close to ending. Let's hear from another group. And if we don't get to you, and also Taylor, I wanted to ask if you could just, if you've jotted it down, if you could send what you said to us, because we're trying to kind of use this, and whatever it is, you don't have to.
I'll put it as summary in a Word doc and send it.
That's fine. Cool. Then you can send it to me.
Okay.
And then if we don't get to your group for whatever reason, if someone could take responsibility for just writing a quick summary or whatever, if you created a poem, whatever you did, send it to us so we can, and we will incorporate it, going forward. So why don't we take one more group? Evie, did you want to speak?
I didn't take the notes.
okay.
I didn't put my hand up, but I think.
No, I did. I'm sorry. It was me. I fumbled on muting myself. So our group, we basically talked a lot about the, changing the definition, not even changing the definition, but just changing our mindset at using language and, making it and being aware or challenging the stigma of dementia, and how language can have an impact, and the words that we use, and we have to create a world where we think differently, we talk differently about it. And then somebody mentioned by putting those words into practice, because it's one way to change the language, but then also putting it into practice. And we talked about tearing down the myths and ageism, and really just the negative connotation that the word dementia has, and if you look back, to its, prior definitions and, that kind of thing, and just really challenging the stigma and challenging those who have the mindset. And so we talked to, more about also how music practitioners are using music and the arts to, help persons with dementia, and supporting them, also supporting, and we talked about, being caregivers and how we are, how we approach, working with people with dementia. And and we talked about some personal experiences. So but Pia was really good because she brought us back to like, well, how does it relate to reimagining dementia? So it's just, we talked about like just really breaking down the stigma and the myths, and coming up with a new concept and approach, and that is more that incorporates and is more involves everyone, and it's a more of like a cultural change. I don't know, Pia, I don't know, do you want to add a little bit more to that? I was writing feverishly.
Yeah, no, I think you did a terrific job.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, wow, this was amazing and very thought-provoking. And gosh, it's always wonderful when you leave something and you just have so much to play with, work with, think about. We're going to close out, and I know everyone has a much more longer day ahead of them. And so thank you for taking some time out of what I know are very busy lives to join us. We are thrilled that you are part of now this coalition and bringing it to life. We're going to go out and give yourselves a little chance to sing and dance your way into the next part of your day, because I suspect you'll need it. And again, thank you so much. We will keep doing more, keep getting the word out about the coalition. I think there's a lot of us out there who want to be a part of this kind of environment. Sion, take us away, and we will see you. We will be getting together more, so don't worry, this is not the last we've seen of each other. So have a wonderful day, and Sion, take us away. No. Wait. Boogie on down.
Because I'm happy alone. If you feel like a room without a roof, because I'm happy alone.
If folks want to stay, you can keep going, but if folks want to stay for about 15, 20 minutes after, feel free. But otherwise, boogie on down. Hello. Merci. Okay. All right.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Mary. I actually have to go to another meeting, so I can't stay as I did before, but thank you so much. And I love it, Wally.
Ah, Wally.
Oh, yeah, wait, Wally. Oh, how cool.
Oh, hey.
That is awesome.
Hey, Wally, seriously, you have got to send us all these things.
Yeah.
Because then we will have our own reimagining dementia like art show. No, seriously, send it. So thank you, Pia. We'll see you later.
Yeah. See you tomorrow.
All righty.
Yeah. Picture.
Oh gosh.
Robert, are you without power? I forget. Are you the?
Who are you talking?
No. Oh, okay. It was Mark. I guess.
Yeah.
He never came back.
Mary, I have a
Yes.
question.
Sure. Carrie and Susan, can you stay on for a bit?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
Go
there,
ahead.
is there another thing tomorrow? Did you say
Yes.
about Fridays or something?
As it stands now, yes, we have the 11 o'clock meeting, or 8 o'clock your time, whatever.
Okay. And
So,
it would be helpful for me if
Yeah.
you guys send a reminder out, because
We will. I'll send it in. I'll either send it tonight or in the morning, and because I have to send the Zoom link out anyway.
I get a note.
No problem. You will have a reminder in your email.
Thanks, everybody. Y'all
Right.
have a good
Thank
day.
you.
See
All
ya.
righty.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. All right. I just wanted to ask you. Oh, that was great.
Is it
That was a-
Elizabeth? Elizabeth, I used to. No.
No, when she left. All righty. Oh my gosh, I am tired.
You must be exhausted.
I will honestly say I am exhausted. However, this was, I mean, I've loved all of them, but this one I think was just, I loved This was I love this group. All right, I wanted to consult with the two of you because part of it is, I think I've just underestimated how much this week would impact on work. And I'm kind of behind. And I'm debating, like 3 people are not attending the meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
I already know that. So I'm just trying to figure out what to do about tomorrow because part of me, from my sake, I could use having the day. But I also think I'm also weighing it to, we've just come out of these gatherings and whether or not, if we could meet early rather than next Friday, I think I wouldn't have a conflict, but I just feel like waiting another week but I'm just too stuck in it. So I wanted to see if we could just come up with a way to think about it. And I'm fine if we meet tomorrow and it's not so I just wanted to see what both of you thought.
Well, I think that it might be helpful to have just people give their impressions or, do something kind of a